I'm Scott Munn, along with Tug Coward in the Warrior Alliance Network studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, Tug and I will talk with a man who is the definition of success after service. Orrick Curry is a retired U.S. Army Sergeant Major with over 27 years of military service, who also retired a second time after 21 years as an Atlanta Police Department investigator and master instructor. That's over 48 years of combined time in uniform. Throughout his military career, Sergeant Major Curry served in numerous active duty and reserve assignments, including positions of leadership as a squad leader, team chief, section sergeant, platoon sergeant, and first sergeant. Sergeant Major Curry was awarded the Legion of Merit and the Bronze Star, in addition to other service commendations for his support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and, of course, the Gulf War. We'll talk about his service to our country and how he continues to serve right here in Atlanta on today's edition of Success After Service. Sergeant Major Orrick Curry, U.S. Army retired. Welcome to the Warrior Alliance Network, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here today. It's an honor and a privilege.
Oldest of 8 siblings, so you had to be a natural leader, right? You have to corral the siblings, make sure everybody's acting right, because mama gonna get after you if you don't. That obviously plays well into what you would do in the military, being a leader. What compelled you to join the Army, though?
Well, it was interesting. I started in college. I was in college. I had a full ride. I was going to Lane College. And
you had a full scholarship,
yeah,
for academics,
athletic.
What were you playing?
I was playing football. So it was that and academic. So I was like, okay, I'm good to go. And I got there and I just said, I wanted something more. I came from a small town in Jackson, Tennessee, and I said, let me see what's different.
Yeah, what else is out there?
What's out there? And I wanted to travel. So actually, my uncle was a vice president of the college that I went to, and I had a talk with him. And I was like, Uncle, college is good, and I wasn't struggling when I left college. I had a 3.4 GPA, so it wasn't like I was struggling. So it was academically. So he was like, well, hey, you got to make a choice. And he was a former Marine. He served his time as a sergeant, and he was like, okay, this is what you can do. And I said, okay. And I came up with it. I didn't tell my mom. I told her once I signed on the dotted line that, hey, I was 18 at the time, and I was like, hey, it's time for me to go in the military. And she's like, what? And I said, yes, I'm going in the military. And they gave me an opportunity. My ASVAB scores were high, so I could have went in the Navy, Air Force, Marines, in the Army. And so I was like, who's going to give me the first opportunity? Air Force said, hey, it's going to take you a couple of months. Army say, when you ready to go?
Army said, pack your bags.
Yeah, and so did the Marines.
We've been waiting on you.
Yeah, and so did the Marines. They said, hey, we ready for you to go. And I was like, okay. So I thought about the Marines first because I like the uniform. I thought
they look sharp.
Yeah, and when they got
clean, them uniforms.
Yeah. And then when I got there, and it was me and a buddy was supposed to go on the same program together, on the buddy program. But when I got in there, I was like, hey, I scored high on this. I think I want to say, you're going to be a Marine first. I said, wait. I don't. He said, no, you're going to be a Marine first, and then your job comes second. And I was like, okay, all right. The Army said, at that time frame, be all you could be.
Yes,
that was a slogan at that time.
Yes, sir.
So I was like, that's what I'm running for. And so I left and went in basic training in Fort Jackson, then went to Fort Gordon, the AIT, and then left there. And I said, hey, send me somewhere cool. And they sent me to Germany. I actually left in December in the snow. I mean, it was cold here, but when I got there, it was snowing there. And I was like, what have I got myself into? But it was the best experience that I had, and to the point of being there probably about 7-8 years.
Wow. Goodness. I can only imagine the experiences that you did get, because I can name mine in the Navy, just the experiences I had. But so being a Navy guy, I don't really understand what some of the Army roles are, some of the Army jobs are. Can you help me understand Signal Battalion? And then when you do, how it prepared you for what you do today?
Oh, yeah. So, when you're in the military and you go into signal, because I was line of sight, 31 mic, multi-level channel communications
You might as well
operator.
be speaking Latin.
Yeah, I know. So most people, the ones who in the Army, they know what that is.
He's talking about lining it up and communicating about it.
Yeah, so it's communication. It's a line of sight communication. So
That's right.
I was doing that, and being in Germany, I was thinking I was going to be directly in a signal battalion, and I was assigned to a signal battalion, but they attached me to an ADA unit, air defense unit, because they need signal too, and so signal is always support. And so I was like, hey, I thought I was going to be in a signal unit. And that's when things changed. They say, hey, you're in the signal. You're going to go to this unit and provide them communications. So it led me to go in and, some things that you think that you're going to do, you will do it, but you would do it at different levels. And I think that's important when a person goes into the military. You expect one thing, but there could be a different outcome. But
It's whatever's best for the Army at that moment.
It's best for the Army. It's best for the needs of the country.
Yes, sir.
So that's how it works. And I really enjoyed being in that unit. And that unit was a little different because, we were our own attachment to to a unit. So it was nice. I really enjoyed it.
And then you went on to serve in the Gulf War and the global war on terrorism, which is just incredible, and we appreciate all of that service in war.
Thank you.
And you served over 27 years in the Army and the reserves, and you saw at least 3 major conflicts. And how did you then make a transition into civilian life after what had to have felt like a full lifetime already of service?
Yeah, right after Desert Storm, I came back and it was, going back to active duty, going back to Germany, coming out of the Gulf War. I was like, man, am I going to stay in? Am I going to get out? And it's one of those things where it was kind of funny because I got out of the military in Germany, worked in the reserve unit there in Germany, and then while doing that, there was a job fair, and they came to, and it was, Atlanta was hosting the Olympics.
96.
Yep, the Atlanta was hosting the Olympics, and so around that time frame, I was working for a German company. I learned the language while I was there, so that made it unique. The good thing about being in the signal unit, I actually worked with by me speaking German, they assigned me to a German unit for a couple of months. And it was like some German soldiers would go to American posts, work on the post, and I would go to a German post. Some of us would go to a German post and work on there for a couple. So it was very interesting.
That's cool.
So that was one, and I was like, okay, I can do it. And so when it was time to get out, I was like, okay, let me go to the States and look at the job market. And I came to the States, and I started out in security. Was on a billboard in Atlanta, coming down, the company that I was working with, the security company. So I went from that, and then I saw the opportunity, given the ability to serve, and some of the officers was talking to me there. I wasn't going to go in communications, be a 911 dispatcher. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, I don't think that's going to be your cup of tea. So then I said, okay. And I looked at being in law enforcement, and it was where I was serving the country. It gave me an opportunity to come back and serve the citizens.
Serve the community, yeah.
And serve inside the community, and that was very important. So all the stuff that I learned there, I just brought it back and start applying some of the discipline, some of the camaraderie, some of the morale that I had in the military, which, law enforcement is kind of paramilitary.
Very similar, yeah.
And so, it was just an easy kind of transition.
But your commitment to public service then continued for another 2 decades as an investigator for the Atlanta Police Department, which is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And you were also in the reserves, I guess, too, that whole time, right?
Yes.
And you kind of, were you prepared for that work as a vet? Because you were in the Signal Corps before. It wasn't like you were military police. Were you ready for the law enforcement job?
Well, I think the one thing that Signal gave me the opportunity to do was communicate. When you in that environment, you have the ability to overcome and adapt to certain things. And I think that's the one thing about it is you adapting to your environment. And I think when I came back, I had the opportunity to sit down and when you're in other countries and you get to watch how law enforcement operates, because in Europe they operate a little bit different.
They do.
A lot different, but they still gain that respect. And I think that's one thing that I wanted to do was give back. And I said when I became an officer, I said I was going to do everything in my power not to take a person to jail. But did I have to take people to jail?
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. But if that's that discretion that
Yeah,
you
it wasn't
have.
job one.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was, and the community that I served in, I had a little bit of everything. I worked vice, I worked gangs, I worked executive protection, and I trained at the academy. And in training, I became a general instructor, a senior instructor, and then a master instructor. And I taught all levels, from recruits coming in all the way up to command staff and anybody in between, undercover operations. So the things that I learned while I was in the military in my leadership roles kind of went into that. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you want to go and be a sergeant, a lieutenant, while you were there in the police department? I was an investigator. And I think the investigator is one of the key elements to any community, because an officer does his thing and he brings the evidence to the investigator, and the investigator has to break it down and do a lot. It's very intriguing. And, everybody wants to talk about homicide, but there's a lot of things before you get to a homicide. And so, you try to deter crime. You try to be in a position where that you can investigate and give closure as well, because you want those family members to have the closure once you do an investigation, or that business owner who something was taken and recovered. So you see the smiles on people's faces when they get their stuff back. That's very important. So,
is there anything that you would be willing to or can share, some of the tough times that you faced and how your military background prepared you to head on into it, whatever it was, and in any of the roles that you had, and the ones that you have are extraordinary?
I think when you're in those fields, in the military they talk about being fit to fight, and that's emotionally, mentally, and
Sure.
physically. And so when you in those environments, you have to be able to go from a high level of tempo to even going very low when you might be dealing with a child or things. So it's a lot of hats you have to play, and it's very stressful. And just imagine you coming from combat, being in the reserves, and then you have to come back and your rules of engagement are totally different. So when you look at rules of engagement, it's certain things you gotta remember from one element to the next. And how do you overcome that? And sometimes you have a split second to make a decision.
Can't imagine.
And so when you
Okay.
have to make that decision, is that person either pulling a weapon, or is that person pulling out a cell phone or pulling out a wallet? So you have to, it's a lot goes on. And a lot of times when you're in that arena, you have to be able to, sometimes you're not always going to get it right. You're not going to get it right.
That's just human being.
Yes.
I mean, it's
emotions.
It's absolutely. We all make errors. We all get it wrong. It's just when I get it wrong at my job or Scott gets it wrong at his job, it's not magnified.
Yes.
Like it is if
It's
you
not
were
showed on TV.
That's exactly
Yes.
right.
It's not in that you make that mistake, and sometimes it's non-forgiving, because once you draw that weapon, you have to make a decision. Now, in the military, the enemy's over there. They firing at you. You firing back. You don't know if you hit them.
It's pretty clear cut.
Yes, but when you're in that environment, you got to look at who is your suspect. You got to look at who is your victim. You got to look at if it's something that happens at a split second, that you got to be able to try to be accurate as possible and not cause another casualty or, as they say, friendly fire. So it's a lot. And sometimes that adrenaline is going, and you just got to say, okay,
You got to be able to control it.
You got to be able to control it, because it can happen so fast and at such abrupt notice. It's like, did I do that? And sometimes you don't even remember because you get into tunnel vision.
Because it happens so quickly.
Yes.
Wow.
And if you make an error, you have to recover, and you just have to take some time off and know that you got a great batting average, and you get back in there, right?
Yes. Some of it Some of it can be easy as that, and some of it cannot be easy as that.
Did you ever witness anything, with other officers, or maybe even yourself, where you did have to take that step back and recover from whatever you'd been through or whatever you'd seen people go through? Because those are the war stories, and I don't use that word loosely, but those are the war stories that we hear about. Officers having to take a step back because it's like, I just did the best I could, and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, and well, I can remember one. It's just one that sticks to me. Thanksgiving. It was one of the Thanksgivings. I was sitting, one of the agents would have a roadblock, and a guy pulled off the roadblock, and I got behind him and turned my blue lights on, and he stopped, and he at the light and kept going. I was like, what's going on with this one? And so I didn't know where he was going. I got on the radio, and on Thanksgiving, most officers sitting back chilling. And then our supervisor said, really don't get into nothing today. And I really wasn't planning on getting into nothing.
Yeah.
And actually, he pulled over, not knowing that he was at his house. And when I approached him, he was cordial up until the point of, I said, can I see your driver's license? And as soon as he gave me the driver's license, he looked at me, and I stepped back for a moment. And he started getting out the car. I said, hey, just sit in the car. I don't need you to get out the car. Just stay in the car. And then he just all of a sudden, just for a matter of split second, we got in a big fight. And he's reaching for my weapon. He's saying all type of words. And dispatch, knew I pulled out, and they was calling me. I wasn't answering because I'm fighting.
You couldn't.
I'm fighting. And he actually knocks, because, they have the radios up here. He actually knocked it down, so it's dingling. The cord is dingling, so I can't really get it. And so it was one of those things where, oh, man. And then he kind of grabbed me in a bear hug, and we bounced back onto my car. And I was like, oh, crap, this is not going to be. And he said, he made some words some threats. I'm going to kill you. And he started reaching for my gun.
Oh, my goodness.
And so the only thing that I can do at that time frame was keep my hand on the gun. I know the cavalry is coming because I hear them calling. Where is he at? And you just got to stay in that fight. You and all my military and everything else, I said, I just got to fight this guy.
Then all of a sudden you're fighting with one arm behind your back because you're trying to prevent the worst becoming worse.
Yes. And then at this point, and just go back a little bit, I had just went to one of the residents and ate.
Oh my
and
God.
So I had food.
Oh
I was
full,
so I'm a
fat
little
and
heavy and sweating, and this thing, and that was the longest time.
I'm sure.
And I actually I always call this it's still in my report today. I bit him on the ear.
Yeah, Mike Tyson style.
I literally bit him because where he had me in a bear hug, and I was on the car. I bit him in the ear, which caused him to turn his head to the forward, and then I just headbutted him, and then I just grabbed him, and I just did a suplex and just landed on top of him until
the cavalry did get there.
And the supervisor was the first one. I said I was such a happy person to see a supervisor in my life, and so they detained him, and. Later on, he was strung out on some drugs. He had smoked some marijuana laced with something else.
Oh, my goodness.
And after everything had settled down, he even said this to me. He said, I really don't know what come over me, but he said, why didn't you kill me?
Wow.
Wow, man.
And so...
Because protect and serve, that's why.
Yeah. And so with that situation... It never crossed my mind because the only thing I didn't want him to do was get that gun.
Sure.
And so you have all type of, stories. And I've seen officers who actually walk up to a car and never get that chance because the suspect either shot and killed them or injured them on the scene. So during my period of time being there, same way in combat, some of them don't go home at night.
Amazing stuff, man. And that's the stuff those are the situations that's why we back the blue, right, Tug? Because those guys are facing that kind of stuff every day, every second of every day that you're relaxing in your life. The guys that put on the uniform are out there facing these kind of threats. And then what's amazing about you, Sergeant Major Curry, is that not only have you done all this service and have you been in these hot situations, but you continue to want to serve the community. It doesn't affect you where you go home and you say, I just don't want to leave my house. You say, no, I've got to make the world a better place. Yes. And so now you're the COO of a nonprofit called Clippers and Cops. And as a trainer and mentor, you're kind of filling the gap between law enforcement and community. Recent honors include the 21 Dennis P. Mullen Lifetime Achievement Award, the 23 Almost Lost in the System Humanitarian Award, and of course the 24 First Responders Veteran Impact Award from the Warrior Alliance. Tell us about your mission at Clippers and Cops, and you can check it out at home, folks, by going to clippersandcops.com. We want to know about the mission. It's a very intriguing name, Clippers and Cops. What you're doing there, and why is the work so important?
Well, the organization, we call it Bridging the Gap between law enforcement and the community. And what we started out was in the barbershops. And for us, it's a black man's country club. It's a man's country club, too. You go to barbershop, talk about anything and everything.
Ain't nothing better.
So you learn a lot from inside the barbershop. So when being inside that barbershop, we started hearing the people in the community. And you would always think it's men would be in the barbershop. But it's all ladies bring their kids to the barbershop.
Oh, yeah.
And they wait.
Sure.
Yeah, Mom.
And so, So
they get involved in the conversation, too?
Yeah, so it was one of those things. So we started there, and then we started feeling like we wasn't reaching the youth because we really wanted to hit the youth. So then we started going, we call it campus invasions. We started going to universities. We going to colleges. We going to high school, middle school. And then we found out we even had to go to elementary school and start talking to the elementary kids about gang, decision-making, being respectful. And so that was one of the things that I ended up giving back, because one thing about it is you got to meet them where they at. Sometimes they're not coming to you. You got to meet them where they're at. You got to go out there in the community. And that's one thing that I used to tell the officers. I said, some officers, we have the ability, we go and stay somewhere else. But when you go into this community, do you really know what that community is about? Do you walk that community? Do you talk to the local people inside that community? Because that is very important. Because I say this here, a lot of the people that was in the community that I worked for, when I had an issue, they would tell me who it was. Where if you just standoffish and you only see you when you call 911, I
don't know you. Yeah, exactly right.
But then I also tell the people in the community, get to know your officer.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Most people think it's just us. No, get to know your officer. Come and say,
find out what he's
hey, this is my son. This is my son. This is my daughter. If she does something wrong, please let me know. Because we all, it's a check and balance. And sometimes when you go in the communities that you work in, sometimes there's no checks. Sometimes there's no balance. And so they look at you as coming to save them. Because I would always tell the gang members, you're going to leave me one way or another. Because sometimes they get shot, they get hurt, they get injured. And then the next thing you know, they looking at us. They might not can stand us, but they want us to be there when they shot, hurt, or injured. And then sometimes, we have to be there sometimes with the EMTs because of the condition or the environment. So, it's one of those things I really enjoy, especially when I see some of the kids that are doing good things after we sit down and talk to them, because they have first hand-on-hand conversation with a police officer in their element, and that's at school.
It's encouraging right there.
And so it's not a resource officer. It's somebody that they might see or meet on the streets if they out there. And a lot of times when we out there, they was like, hey, I saw you at Clippers and Cops. Hey, I saw you on TV. I saw you on the news. So they interact with us. And it's one of those things we want them to know that we're human just like they are. We bleed, we put on our uniforms, we do everything just like them.
Yes, sir.
We just have a job to do.
Yes, sir. Running short on time, but I want to get your opinion on the Warrior Alliance, how that relationship has helped you and help the organization, and what it means to you to be involved with them.
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's one of the programs where you can come and get resources to help you get to other resources. You know, it's not like one shopping. It's you come here, they can guide you in other directions for other organizations who are doing something similar. And if they can help, they will refer you, or they will put you in the right path. And I think that's where you have organizations which do that is being that selfless service. They're saying, okay, I got you here. I'm going to do everything that I can to help you navigate through this. Because when you come out of the military, sometimes everything is given to you in the military. You know that.
Yes,
it's
sir.
given to you. Same thing, being a spouse or a family member, you transfer, you go places, it's packed up, shipped up.
Here's what you need, and here it is.
But once you get out, sometimes you defend it for yourself.
Yes, sir.
You're trying to navigate through the VA system. You're trying to get your benefits. You're navigating, trying to get all your evidence and compile together over the years of service that you did to make sure that you can get that. And here they will help you get to that level. They will guide you in the right direction, and they will help you out till the end, and do a follow up. And that's one thing I like is the follow up. They will do a follow up. I know we gave you this, or we sent you this. How did it work? And then coming back to that is very important.
And you got to get started by signing up at thewarrioralliance.org, thewarrioralliance.org. And check out Sergeant Major Orrick Curry's organization at clippersandcops.com.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your service to the city of Atlanta, this wonderful place that we all live. And we hope it won't be the last time we get to see you.
No, thank you, and I really enjoyed it. And thank meeting both of y'all. And it's a great privilege and honor for being here. And so, thank you once again.
Continued success, my friend.
All right.